This is Overtime with Chris Dewar, only on KHQA.
Well, this is Saturday, December 17th, and you have indeed entered overtime, or as I like to call it, the last Saturday solo effort for this crazy cat. Come Thursday, the Ross Green era starts here at KHQA, and your friendly neighborhood sports department returns to full strength just in time for the holiday tournament meltdown. Ross, by the way, a Quincy kid. Go figure that, so it'll be an awful lot of fun. To be honest with you, one man shooting 10 games today, which I did, is kind of pushing the envelope, but that, kids, just shows how much I love all of you. And what a sweet little Saturday it was with shootout basketball fun in Jacksonville, Quincy, Iowa. But more than that, this was a day of shocking scores in Tri-State High School boys basketball. Or more precisely, a day of validation for Chuck Grant and his Monmouth-Roseville squad, which beat Quincy High School at home tonight, or more precisely at Monmouth College, 73-64. Yes, kids, Monrose was ranked. Monrose looks good, but this, my friends, tells you just how good that squad is. Jackson Kane, one of 4 Monmouth-Roseville players in double figures tonight, negating D'Angelo Dean's 24 points. Makes it a tough weekend for the Blue Devils, who lose back-to-back games to Moline and now Monrose. Not a good day. Not a good weekend for Quincy High School. Better news for Quincy Notre Dame, though, in bounce-back mode tonight at the Rumble on the River. It was a battle of 6'9" guys in the middle taking on Miller Academy, and this, my friends, is Matt McPherson doing some work, having maybe his best game of the season, going up against 6'9", scored 11 points of the night to help lead his team. The outside shooting, courtesy of this guy tonight, Nick Dietrich. He had 3 3-pointers on the night, all of them in the first half, and Quincy Notre Dame goes on to destroy what was reported to be and reputed to be a very good Miller Career Academy team, 62-30. Nice to see the Raiders bounce back from yesterday's huge loss to Mater Dei. More on Mater Dei in just a second. It's going to get interesting. Hannibal today at the Rumble on the River. Matt Pugh's team, boy, they're coming off that huge win over Mexico. In olden days, Hannibal teams coming off a big win, playing the next day on short clock, would have struggled. Tell you what, they didn't struggle today. At this point, Austin Malloy brings Calhoun close, but Hannibal about to throw down the pedal in this one. Michael Shivers from the outside for 3, and then even when Shivers missed, things went right today. Logan Hicks on the inside, beautiful offensive rebound, and the right-handed finger roll falls home for him. More to come from right here. It is this guy, Jay Jones, with the wing angle 3, made it 19-15 Hannibal at that point, and the pull away, the separation was starting to come right here. Great move, great pass ahead to Jay Jones, who gets the awkward-looking finger roll to fall at that point. The Pirates just keep on building that lead. Look at the defense coming up right here from Logan Hicks, the guard, with an amazing block, and we're going to reward him right here. Great pass, the 2-man game with Michael Shivers, and that's pretty stuff at the other end for Mr. Hicks, who had himself a 20-point day today. Bubba Williams doing work on the inside. He misses, but there's little Jay Jones. Grabbed the offensive rebound, beating the tall timber for that, if you will. More to come in this one. Dalton Powell with a pretty move. The courageous take, if you will. Probably should have drawn a foul as well. And the and one, he did not get the bucket and the Band-Aid in that case. Bubba Williams working hard as well. Finger roll for him right there. And then it's Michael Shivers. Big day for him. So he had 12 points on the day, raining threes in this one. Hannibal follows up the big win over Mexico. Their first in 6 tries with a big win today over Calhoun. 64-39 was your final. More at the Rumble on the River. Talk about a team that's hard to gauge. Unity coming off a what did they win by? Like 27 points last night over Palmyra. Playing today against Christian and looking for some offense. It is Reed Benzinger, with that linebacker mentality, hitting the offensive glass and getting the bucket to fall. Then right here, Andrew Doyle. That's Alex Blickhand with a nice move and the transition bucket with a very hard take. Christian, though, answering back to build a lead in this particular case. Adam Glenville is going to knock down the long jumper right here. That's an NBA range 3. More to come, though, from Christian. Very athletic team. Look at this from the outside. This is Dino McNeil knocking one down as well. You know what? Unity tried to come back numerous times in this game. Brett Jackson's going to knock down the jumper right here, and then Thomas Donnelly's going to do some work on the edge as well, but to no avail. Unity loses by 10 to Christian. Final count in this one, I believe, was 70-80 in favor of Christian. One more for you from the Rumble on the River today. Reno Pinkston's West Hancock squad taking on Highland and looking magnificent out of the gates today, and a lot of it was being harmonized, courtesy of Paxton Harmon. He's going to hit the offensive glass to start off what was an amazing run for the Titans right out of the gate in this game. And it's going to be a lot of Paxton Harmon. He scored 22 points in the game. I think he scored all of them in the first quarter. He's going to knock down the 3 there. You don't see kids get this hot very often. It was like Paxton was channeling old school Kiki Vandeweghe, knocking down feathery jumpers all over the place and doing all the little hustle plays that Kiki used to do when he was a Denver Nugget. Good stuff as well. I tell you what, everything going right for this kid tonight. Harmon from the outside yet again, knocking that down. By the time JT Gray puts the Cougars on the board, and you will see him do so right here, not a bad player in his own right. It was a 19-0 run at that point. Now it's 19-3. More to come, though, from Paxton Harmon. Yeah, set him up on the wing and just keep feeding the kid until the smoke subsides because he was smoldering. More to come right here. Austin Hardy with the defense. He's going to miss at the other end. But there's somebody around looking for the offensive rebound. You guessed it, Paxton Harmon. We did have non-Paxton Harmon highlights. We will prove that now. Jeremy Ferguson with a nice take on the interior. Also, Austin Hardy going to come up with a big 3 here. By the time the first quarter was over, this game was essentially over as West Hancock wins 58-21. Harmon with 22 points and didn't play much in the second half. Austin Hardy with 12 to lead the way. All right, on to the scoreboard today at the IC shootout at Illinois College. Jacksonville in double overtime today upsets and beats the Breeze Mater Dei team that knocked off Quincy Notre Dame right here last night. A very big win for J.R. Dugan and company today. Dalton Keene scored 19 points. You know him better as a football player, so much so, in fact, that last night the University of Indiana was scouting him for football while he was playing basketball. Go figure that one. But great game for Dalton Keene, great game for the Jacksonville Crimsons, who are coming to life. And remember, they're doing this without their best player. Mr. Peak laid up with a bad back. Wow, Jacksonville playing some great basketball right now. Also at the IC shootout today, Western loses by 2 to Tri-City, 38-36. Route continues to play really good basketball. Brent Long is having a monster season in the early going. He had 12 and 11 today as Route beats Waverly, 52-36. Big news for our friends from Ellsbury. They win the Nike Cougar Classic today. I believe that was down in the St. Louis area, I think at Lutheran St. Peter's, if memory serves me right. Scott Krager with 16 points as state-ranked Ellsbury wins over a very good Zumwalt North team by 4 today. Also in overtime tonight, Pittsfield a winner over North Green, 42-38. Dalton Hoover scored nearly half of his team's points as the Saukeys get off the schneid. Big one tonight at Liberty as well, coming off the momentum of a 16-point win last night over Red Hot Macomb. What would the Eagles do tonight against the Central team that has shown flashes of being very good early on? It's this guy, the big fella, Dalton Crawford. The alley-oop is botched, but look at Crawford having the presence of mind to gather himself and take it up. And speaking of Crawford, look at the touch pass back to Jared Shover. Great start for Liberty. But here comes Alex Walter and Camp Point Central about to heat up a little bit. Took them a while. They were down as many as 10 in the first quarter, but Cole Phillips and company kind of find their mojo. In the second quarter, moving into the third, they would take the lead and they would not let it go. Tight game tonight, but Central Southeastern, or excuse me, just Central in this particular case, gets a big, big win on the road tonight over Liberty. 43-40, I believe, was your final on that one. More scores for you to pass along tonight. Wrestling will start you off at the Zumwalt East Invitational, where Hannibal takes 8th as a team. But they had 2 wrestlers tonight at the Pirates, Colby Collings and Kyle Muring, who both won, or finished second, in their individual weight classes. Logan Clark with one of the 3rd place finishes for the Pirates. Keokuk today finishes 4th in the loaded Fort Madison Invitational. The host school finishes 3rd. We only got results from Keokuk, so we will give you Keokuk's individual champions. They had 3 of them today. They were Derek Rose at 152, Gabe Martin and Chase Hellenthal finishing 2nd on the day, Ryan Maxwell and Dalton Jensen. Congratulations to those fine gentlemen who you saw wrestling against Quincy High here on our highlights earlier this week. We're just getting warmed up right now. We got plenty more to come. Up next, a big comeback tonight for the Quincy University Hawks in the second half, where they look very good after a kind of a sluggish start tonight. Plus, good stuff on the girls' side as well. Quincy Notre Dame with another state-ranked team. Could the Lady Raiders keep it up? All that coming up next as Overtime continues. And welcome back to Overtime, my friends. Give Marty Bell some credit. He certainly isn't serving up cupcakes for Christmas, not with seemingly soon-to-be nationally ranked Hillsdale headlining a very salty field of competition for next weekend's QU Subway Holiday Tournament. Now, tonight's battle with Missouri Baptist was supposed to be a mere tune-up, and a chance for us locals to catch up with the visiting Ryan Brewer of Palmyra and Bryce Scott of Hannibal. However, the Hawks found themselves down 1 point at the half. Marty Bell looks displeased. Boy, that's not hard to read, but Marty Bell's displeasure would resonate with his team, which came out smoldering in the second half. It starts with the big fella, Jay Bentley Brock. Justin with a nice take right there. The down low set up the outside game, and from the perimeter, it was Austin Weber going absolutely nuts. NBA range three right there. Oh, that kid's feeling a bit spicy. He's not done. Rashawn Norris with a beautiful back pass. Look at the fake and the deke almost, if you will, from Austin Weber. Oh yeah, the Hawks feeling it. They're imbibing in the goodness right there. Marshawn Norris hooking up with the big fella Justin Brock over to Scott Hahn. A little tic-tac-toe passing right there. We're not done. All of this coming in a flourish of about 5 minutes to start the second half. Norris knocking down the three. He's not done. He's going to clap, applaud himself, and come right back and do it again. Again from NBA range from Norris. Oh, but we're not done. A 21-9 run for the Hawks put this game away to open the second half, and it was capped by this guy. Once again, Austin Weber gets up to get down. Beautiful stuff from Mr. Weber on the night, who had 15 points to spur that run. We'll slow it down, and we'll give Mr. Weber a little glamour time, if you will, as the Quincy University Hawks get off the schneid and get their second straight win as they knock off Mo Baptist big time tonight, 97-75. Remember, big weekend ahead with a big QU Subway shootout, holiday tournament coming up next weekend. Other college basketball scores of note locally, Culver Stockton a winner at home over HLGU 79-70. Was your final there. Women's college action today as well. We'll get to that in a second. Let's do some high school action. Quincy Notre Dame taking on the number 10 team in Iowa 4A basketball and destroying them yet again. Can anyone, anywhere, beat Quincy Notre Dame? May not happen until maybe the Edwards game in our shootout. There's a free plug for you coming up in February. There you go. Quincy Notre Dame, though, with a huge takedown of Linn-Mar tonight, 58-29 in the road up in southeast Iowa. We've got more for you tonight. Hannibal playing against undefeated Josie Clockey and the Hardin Calhoun Warriors at the Rumble on the River. Hannibal down 16, but look at Cassidy Trenniel trying to get her team ignited in this one. Oh, but you know what? Calhoun has weapons beside Josie Clockey, who's now playing point guard. Nice to see her transition. This is Kaylin Ballman from the outside knocking down a three. Then Shelby Hayen is going to do the same thing for the Lady Warriors, giving her team back a 20-point lead. You know what, though? Hannibal got a nice spark late in the second half off the bench from Teresa Sheffer, who's just going to start stealing things right and left. Little larceny, little layup at the other end. The Sheffer not done yet. We saw Hannibal kind of get heated up. This team has played a brutal schedule earlier. They're better than they were last year. They've showed some signs in this one. Again, some defense right here, some rebounding. And at the other end, Miss Melanie Blaze going to run down and throw one off the plexiglass for two more. Then it's Sheffer again, working her magic defensively. I told you, she gave them a big spark off the bench in this little run as Hannibal would get the lead back down to a more manageable. I think it got down as few as 11 points at one point. But you know what? There's a reason Calhoun is undefeated, and largely it has to do with Josie Clockey, the All-State candidate from outside. The bank shot is open for her. Calhoun wins big in this one, 64-36 was your final. How about the Highland girls? Which means it's probably time for Ashton Luttrell. Brad Dance looks a little bemused. Didn't like some of the calls early on. You know what, though? When you've got the great equalizer, what does it matter? Ashton Luttrell hitting the offensive glass and doing what she does. It's a three-point play. Bucket plus Band-Aid for that young lady. More to come. Abby White going to free herself up at just about the free throw line and knock that home. Pretty shot for her. And then more from Ashton Luttrell, the All-Stater, going to work in this one. We're going to see a little felony and the find at the other end. Good stuff for her as she scored 30 points in the day. Luttrell was just her typically amazing self as Highland picks up a win and evens its record on the season at 3-3. Miss Luttrell finish it off, if you please. You will see her do so at the other end as Highland wins today 51-30 against a Christian team that was overmatched from start to finish in this one. Let's take you over to Jacksonville now. Route versus Waverly Franklin New Berlin in the Illinois College Shootout. You're looking at Emily Bistry, who was going to have herself a really good first half. She had to because the rest of the Route Rockets were ice cold for the first 12 minutes of this game. Bistry with a little modified teardrop, if you will, right there. More from her. She's a hustler. What I like about Bistry is she's got that Sugar Shane Mosley thing where all of her reflexes seem like 3 times faster than everybody else's. Look at her just scare up the loose ball right here. Going to turn around and knock down the 3 right there. Route, though, trailing by 10 at this point against the Scotties, who've got a little bit of size. I mentioned size. Look at Amber Kloppy. She's 6'3". She moves pretty well, too. Good bucket for her, but finally, Route heats up in the last 4 minutes of the second half. Natalie Helpin with a nice bit of shooting from the outside right there to knock down the 3. Big story in the day for the Lady Rockets, though. Joe Eilerling's team, that's not easy to say tonight. Joe Eilerling's team today gets a huge effort from Joanna Gross, who had 19 points and 9 rebounds. You see her here with 2 of those points. As Route rallies back to win tonight by 10, the Lady Rockets win 56-46 was your final there. On the scoreboard today, back at the Rumble on the River, tough night for Illini West, who falls to 5-7 on the season with the 30-point loss to Miller Career Academy. Quincy High School, nice road win over Chatham Glenwood. Araya Dade with 13 points in that victory. Kirksville still very, very good. Macon still struggling a little bit in the early season. 62-37 in favor of Kirksville there. We've got more for you. The Macomb Bombers had the misfortune of wearing orange in Mendon today. You remember what Palmyra did to Unity? Unity wanted revenge. They took it out on the poor Macomb Lady Bombers today. All that Palmyra revenge they had left over from last night. And it would start right here with Brooklyn Moore posting up nicely, going through contact and hitting the bank shot at that point. Jill Donnelly, Rachel Rush working the beautiful 2-man game coming up right here. You will see them go to work right there and right there. Good bucket right there. Macomb calls the timeout because they are down at that point 11 points. You know what? Unity still hitting the boards well as well. Becca Talcott tidying up right here on some loose ends and getting one to fall at that point. Just one field goal in the second quarter for Macomb. It came courtesy of Daniel Thorman, who's going to hit right here, this 3, but that was it. I'll tell you what, Unity was kind of just a little bit nasty and a little bit ticked off today. Whitney Murphy cleaning the offensive glass and get the bucket to cap the win for her team. Rhianne Begeman not pictured today with 12. Rachel Rush with 11. Unity bounces back, gets off the schneid, wins by 12, 47-35. Your final there. And one college score to pass along for you tonight. HLG, a hard luck loser on the road to Illinois Springfield. Final count in that one was 66-63. And when we come back here on Overtime, a Hannibal native makes his MMA pro fighting debut successfully, and a Rushville Industry product playing for a national championship tonight. More on her in just a second. Our guy Tyler Perry truly made Kearney, Nebraska a house of pain in his pro MMA debut last night. The Hannibal native knocked out Anthony Simmons in just 46 seconds to win his first pro fight. Good for Tyler, great kid. Nice to see him doing well. By the way, speaking of doing well, it was Football Awards Day here today at KHQA. At 11:53 this morning, we announced our Player of the Year. He was Chris Jackson. Also, our Coach of the Year is Rob Wilt. And if you haven't found out why Chris Jackson is our Player of the Year, we'll tell you why right now.
I mean, I have a good friend of mine, Anton Wright, and I remember us back in the day in junior high just looking at all the records, and one day he said to me, man, maybe you can be up there one day. And honestly, the only record that I thought that I could even come close to would have been Myers Hendrickson, his one-game rushing record. And then once the season started carrying on a little bit and started putting up some big numbers, things kind of became realistic that, hey, you know, you have a chance to make history.
Even as a coach and as a player, you really don't look at that season when it's happening, but when it's all over with 2 or 3 years from now, you'll sit back and you'll look and think, wow, how many yards did he rush for?
He is the new benchmark in Macomb football history, the Bombers' career rushing leader at 3,102 yards, a record forged on the back of the single greatest season in Bomber history as well. Chris Jackson tallied 2,053 yards in just 12 games this fall, shattering John Stovall's previous record by more than 200 yards. No small affair given the company Chris Jackson now keeps in the Macomb record book.
You think how special it is. You know, we've had the Hendrickson boys, which rushed for a lot of yards, Nehemiah Parker, Ryle Irish, John Stovall, so many good running backs, and I'm missing a lot through there. But, you know, Chris does so many fine things when he's got the football in his hands.
But I think all that's just a good reflection on the team and how hard that we've all worked through the offseason because, you know, without those offensive line and the other 10 guys out there, none of that would be possible.
And therein lies the true greatness of Chris Jackson. It's not merely in his staggering statistics, but rather, as good a running back as he may have been, Chris might have actually been a better teammate and leader to the Bombers as well.
After our first couple ball games, we really weren't all in sync, and we made some changes offensively. And, you know, Chris really decided that, hey, it's time for me to take this team up on my shoulders and get the yards and do the things it takes to be a great football player, and that's what he did.
I think after starting 0-2, it wasn't difficult for a lot of guys. We realized what we had to do to get to where we wanted to be. And, you know, when you start off 0-2, it's really a wake-up call for a lot of guys.
He does get very vocal sometimes. You know, our first game of the playoffs, he, you know, said, hey, this ball game's not over. I fumbled in the first half and almost let him back in it. I'm taking it on in the second half. And, you know, from there, he rushed for 290 yards, which in a playoff game was really unheard of. You know, he's just a good all-around kid. And he listens. He wants to get better. He works hard. And he's just the type of kid you want in your program. And usually when you have those type of kids, good things are going to happen.
And good things did happen as the Bombers pulled themselves out of that rough start. Now, Jackson may have been the focal point of all of that, but he seems nearly as proud of the accolades he helped to win for his offensive linemen, or the fact that his fullback, Tyler LaFortune, topped 1,000 yards, as he does of his own achievements.
Yeah, definitely. All season long, I think Tyler and I both have just fed off each other. You know, they were looking for me on the outside, and once that happened, Tyler got a lot of carries up the middle, and he did some great things with the ball. And then once they started focusing back on him, that opened things back up for me. But a lot of credit has to go back to that offensive line. I mean, I've preached it all season that those guys have really just made things a lot easier for Tyler and myself, and especially Matt. Just him getting time to throw the ball and them opening up holes for us, it makes things a lot easier.
You've seen a lot of good backs. You've tried to defend against an awful lot of good backs. Why is this kid so good?
I really think it's the first person misses and he tries to run over the second person. And he really comes hard at you, and it's something that he just keeps his leg running, and he runs so hard and very hard to tackle.
The one thing that we've said from the beginning of the season was don't have any regrets. And looking back on it, I really don't. I mean, I think the whole team as a whole, there's nothing that we regret. Obviously, we wish we could have made it a little farther in the playoffs and maybe got to Champaign. But with how things ended, I think that we're all pretty happy and we had a pretty successful season.
That success manifested itself in a first-team All-State nod for Chris Jackson, as well as Small School Player of the Year honors from the Peoria Journal-Star. And ironically enough, a chance to be some future Bombers' intended target as well.
Are you proud of the fact that some kid is going to look someday at that record book and see your name there, Chris?
Yeah, definitely. One of my goals has always been to be remembered at the high school for something, whether it be track, football, or basketball. And I'm happy that it's football, because that's the one thing I love more than anything else is playing football. And just beating a couple of those records and getting up there on the board, it really means a lot.
And the entire Do or Die show is online right now at connecttristates.com with all the extras in our internet companion. Lots of fun reading and watching, folks. By the way, one other bit of news tonight on a local front. Our girl Taylor Onion, the Rushville Industry product, playing for the University of Illinois on its nationally aspiring for a national title volleyball team. They fall tonight to the Fighting Illini to UCLA. 3-1, so congratulations to the Illini on a phenomenal season. They end up losing. By the way, tough day for the Illini all around. The men's basketball team thumped by UNLV 64-48. Better news for Iowa, a winner over Drake. We're all out of time. Thanks for joining us here on Overtime. We'll see you right back here next week for what should be a fun weekend of holiday tournament basketball as we start the countdown to Christmas.